call to order the meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen for Tuesday, July the 20th. The first thing on our agenda tonight is to adopt the agenda. I have two additions for you. Under the consent agenda, under miscellaneous, if you would add accept a donation of $25 for the Animal Resource Center. And if you would add at 7A, the COVID numbers and CDC recommendations, and Jimmy Allgood will make that presentation. Those are the only changes that I have.
Yes, ma'am, that was all I had.
All right, do we have a motion to accept the agenda? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Well, y'all be glad to know I left my mayor's report on my desk. So I'll give you a very quick mayor's report since I don't have it in front of me. We had such a fun time with the two Olympians and the parade that we hosted last Friday. It was so well attended. It was so fun to watch the Oxford and Lafayette schools participate together. The track teams rode the double-decker bus together behind those two Olympic track athletes. We had the Lafayette County and Oxford High School bands, cheer squads, student councils, ROTCs. It was so much fun. And if you want to look at our social media, Sam Kendricks made a video last night that I posted this morning inviting everyone to come and watch him do his last. He's practicing this week and will leave Saturday for Tokyo. And on Thursday night at 7 o'clock will be his final practice at Bobby Holcomb Field, and he is inviting all of the community to come and watch his last practice so that he can kind of emulate what it will be like in the stadium with people cheering and with noise and that kind of thing. So anyone who would like to go at 7 o'clock Thursday evening, I know that he would be glad to have you. Bart and I were honored to have lunch with our new director of the Mississippi Department of Transportation, Brad White, last week, and we had the opportunity to update him on all of our transportation challenges in Oxford and give him a few really healthy nudges on things that we need to see come to fruition in the near future. Alderman Bailey and I went to D.C. last week, and we had meetings with Senator Roger Wicker and Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, and we feel good about the fact that it seems like there is some bipartisan work going on to reach a transportation infrastructure bill that will be beneficial to communities like Oxford's. We were told by both Senator Wicker and Hyde-Smith that we were on their list of projects to include if earmarks, and that's not what they call them anymore. I can't remember some fancy word that means earmarks. And those would be included, that projects in Oxford Central Corridor projects would be included if they were able to add. So I think that is it for my mayor's report, as much of it as I remember. And so with that, we will move to authorize the approval of the minutes of the special meeting on July 6th, 2021, and the regular meeting on both the special meeting and regular meetings on July 6th.
Make a motion to approve both minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Authorize the approval of accounts for all city departments with the addition of the miscellaneous item, accept donation of $25 to the Animal Resource Center.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we do have vacancies on the Planning Commission, Courthouse Square, Historic Preservation, and Historic.
You just get one. You consent. Authorize approval of all city account departments. That was that.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Pro Tem. All right, let's maybe skip back up to 6. Consider the consent agenda that I just totally flipped the page and skipped past.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, announce vacancies on the Planning Commission, Courthouse Square, Historic Preservation, and Historic Preservation Commission. Those boards, you will hear us make appointments at the first meeting in August for those commissions. Jimmy Allgood, if you don't mind coming up and giving us an update on COVID numbers and on recommendations from the CDC.
You got a handout. I don't have a handout for the numbers or anything. I can give you the numbers. Today, statewide, there were 573 new cases with a total of 9 new deaths. Locally for Fayette County, we went to 6,421 cases, which is an increase of 19 new cases today. Over the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday period, we increased by a total of 24 new cases. So we are seeing our case numbers go up slightly. Right now, just looking at the average, our average for the past week, 7-day average per day average, went to 5.14 cases per day for the 7-day average. The number of beds at Baptist, we're sitting there with 9 COVID patients in the hospital as of the 18th. That's the latest data that's out. Available beds are 27 with 0 COVID patients in ICU and 6 ICU beds available. As of the 19th, we're still sitting at 45% of Lafayette County has received at least one vaccination, and 42% of Lafayette County has been totally vaccinated. On the sheet that you have, that's just a quick breakdown of the changes and guidelines and everything on who's got to isolate, who's got to quarantine, when you do it, and for what time period. We can go over it real quick. The difference between isolation and quarantine: isolation is if you have COVID and how long you have to stay away from others and isolate yourself. Quarantine, though, is if you've been in contact, and that is what changes a lot. And you see I've got it broken down: unvaccinated, partially vaccinated, and fully vaccinated. If you are fully vaccinated, you do not need to quarantine unless you are showing signs or symptoms. You can carry out your normal routine with no mask, no social distancing, everything. That's for fully vaccinated. But if you are partially or unvaccinated, then you have a set of standards that you have to adhere to. The basic one is you can do 14-day quarantine, where you're staying home for 14 days, and to make sure that you're not transmitting the virus or carrying the virus to anyone else. Or you can do the reduced quarantine. And that's where, after day 5 of your exposure, you can take a test. If you're clear on that test, after day 7, you can come out of quarantine. You still, though, however, if you come out of quarantine, you must adhere to the safeguards. Wear a mask, social distance, that type of actions until day 14. And then after day 14, you can go back to normal. And so that's the quick breakdown on the guidelines for quarantine. And then isolation is pretty much the same as it's always been. And you can see the different scenarios here. If you think or know that you had COVID-19 and had symptoms, you can be with others after 10 days since symptoms first appeared, and at least 24 hours with no fever, without fever-reducing medications, and the other symptoms of COVID-19 are improving. Everything. And you can see if you have tested positive but had no symptoms, you can be around others 10 days after you have passed that you had your first positive test. I know there's been a lot of confusion on the quarantine and isolation. There are some different guidelines that the state health department has recommended for school systems. You can go on their website and read it, because they've got several different scenarios. It depends upon the school system, which one the school system wants to apply.
So these are the guidelines that we'll be following with employees moving forward. We've had questions from aldermen about what will the protocol be for employees, and still the safest measure is to just be fully vaccinated. And if you're fully vaccinated and show no symptoms, then you don't have to isolate or quarantine.
Correct.
So,
that is correct.
Anybody have any questions for Jimmy on that?
Vaccinations are available all around town: Kroger, Walmart, all pharmacies, your private care physician offices. If you got a question or you need to locate one, the State Department of Health website can give you that information.
All right, any questions? Thank you, Jimmy. We appreciate you. Second reading and public hearing on a proposed ordinance amending Chapter 18, Sections 18 through 45 regarding operation of the animal shelter in multiple sections within the same chapter. Bart or Nicole?
All right, you've got the orders in front of you. There was a discussion, I won't go back to all the details, but there was a discussion last time about the vicious dog ordinance and the inclusion of it as part of the ordinance that you have, so that's included now in what you have online. I can go through those changes in it, they're highlighted. How do you want me to proceed?
Up to y'all. And just touch on the highlighted ones again, and
So let's go, we'll go page by page again. On the first page, under definitions, there's a change to the, there is a change to define what animal shelter is, animal restriction.
yeah, it's not attached. No, I thought that it was,
No.
Do we need to go back to our last one?
Just
Just a second, I can copy that.
You're gonna have to get the dog part.
yeah, it should actually, oh, it's different.
Ew.
Should we just move this down the list and we'll all get it?
I think so, probably, yeah. Let's skip that, and, no, that's okay. Request permission to approve 2 event permits for Visit Oxford, with one including the usage of parking in front of City Hall. Kenny?
Hello, I have two permit requests, one for Tuesday, August the 3rd, to do a back-to-school event with the Ole Miss women's basketball team. We would need the 8 parking places directly in front of City Hall, so on the east side of the parking bay, to do a basketball event with them from 2 to 3, and then we would finish that with a double-decker bus tour for kids in the community, welcome them back to school, and everyone's supposed to bring a school supply item to supply what they get in Oxford with.
All right, so let's vote on these 2 things separately. Does anybody have any questions, or is there a motion to allow the Ole Miss girls basketball event?
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
And the next one is for Saturday, August 28th. We would like to do a new event called Eat in the Street, which will be on the new Jackson Avenue East Streetery, as we're calling it. So we would request that the street be blocked from Bouray at the Ballers to South Ninth at the red light, and for the whole day, so starting just after midnight Saturday morning, and just until midnight on Saturday night or Sunday morning. We will culminate with live music from a stage from 5 to 9 at the end of the evening, and have some fun events during the day.
I mean, we're talking about closing Jackson Avenue. I mean,
We're just talking about the same part we usually block off.
We're just opening back up.
so moved.
Second.
I'm like, what? Whew. Motion and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Besides John Morgan, thank you. Request permission to approve change order number 2 for the AMI water meter project. Mr. Neely?
It's just pretty simple request here. Contractor is coming down to the last few weeks of the AMI water meter change-out project, and they noticed that a lot of the meters they were really trying to go around and change out had not been cleared up in their list. And so we've taken the time since they made the request to begin changing that list and clean it up, and we've got a couple more weeks to finish that cleanup as we're going through down our rounds with the meters. And then we would allow them an extra month until September 2nd to finish the change out of the water meters. And so there's no change in project costs, it's just giving them a couple extra months at the end of the project.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Request permission to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a contract amendment with Tyler Technologies for the Development Services Department. Hollis?
Thank you. This is a swap. We're going to take, we have paid for customized forms that we don't need, but we need more training hours on the new software. So no money in exchange whatsoever.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Request permission for 4 employees to attend the Firehouse Expo in Columbus, Ohio on September 14th through the 18th at an estimated cost of $6,414.98. Patton's here to save the day. Somebody asking a really hard question.
The fire expo blows so high, it's gonna be a trainer type thing. These 4 individuals will be going over there to take this class, so they can come back here and teach the guys on.
Move we approve.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, sir. Request permission to apply for a Homeland Security grant in the amount of $46,685 for a new prime mover for the Oxford Fire Department. This is a 100% reimbursable grant with no required match.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? We do love 100% reimbursable with no match. Don't believe anybody will ever turn that down. Request approval for a preliminary plat for case 2763 Updraft Investments LLC for the Lamar Phase 4 for property located at the Lamar T&D, being further identified as PPIN 5067. Robert.
So this is a 20-acre phase and will connect phase 2 to Chickasaw Road. There are 82 residential lots and 6 spaces proposed. Tree mitigations will be provided for the sections of the phase that were undisturbed prior to the 2019 LBC change that requires Andes to have mitigation. Engineering has provided comments related to retaining walls, water and sewer, stormwater drainage, and stormwater system ownership, stormwater management facilities, street construction, traffic issues, and they also made the technical changes to the plat. Those technical changes have either been addressed in full or have been noted on the preliminary plat to be addressed before the final plat is approved. At the July Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the request for preliminary plat approval for the Lamar Phase 4 with conditions that are listed in the staff report, and staff recommends approval.
Motion made to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Adopt a resolution of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Oxford requesting that the Department of Finance and Administration adopt a resolution declaring the issuance of state general obligation bonds. Ashley?
Yes, this is the first step in getting the $250,000 that the state has appropriated for us for the proposed removal of the RSVP Plaza area. So this is the very first step in us asking the state to please issue bonds and then give us our $250,000.
So moved.
All in favor? Any opposed? Request approval for the Lafayette County Remembrance Project and the event coordinator, April Grayson, to host a public ceremony using the parking area in front of City Hall for the unveiling of a marker to be placed on the courthouse lawn on September 25th, 2021 at 1:00 p.m.
Yes, ma'am, it's the September 25th event we previously discussed. We confirmed with the county that they do have a permit for the county grounds. In this permit, they're requesting the parking in front of City Hall from Nielsen's over from 2 to 5, and there will be audible sound, speakers and music.
All right. Anybody have questions for Saban on that?
So I'm fine with it, but they're unveiling it over here, but then they're putting it in on the county's courthouse. I mean, on the ground.
No, my understanding is that they are going to, and we may have somebody that can speak to this if I get it wrong. You will be unveiling on the courthouse lawn, correct? And then coming over to have a meal on the street in front of City Hall.
Perfect.
Is that right? Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, so it just will involve both.
I move to approve.
Okay. All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Request permission for a uniform officer to work Sunday traffic detail at North Oxford Baptist Church. Saban?
Yes, ma'am, they've asked for a uniform officer Sundays from 9 to 12. We're just asking for the board's permission.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks for being here. Consider supplemental agreement number 1 and change order number 1 with Phillips Contracting, Inc. for a deduction in the amount of $79,576 for the East Jackson Streetscape project. Nobody's turning down a deduction.
Deduction, enough said, right?
That's right.
This project is a living organism, so this will not be the only change order. Even though the project is slated to be finished in a couple of weeks.
Well, I would like to be the one to make a motion on the deductions. I'll leave the rest of them to them.
All in favor? Any opposed? And thank you, John. I know what a huge role you are playing in all of those moving pieces on Jackson Avenue East between the businesses that are doing construction and the city's work and.
Brianna is the primary moving
Well, y'all have both given it a whole lot of time and effort, and it does not go unnoticed, so thank you. All right, request permission to apply for grant funds for the Emergency Road and Bridge Repair Fund program for multiple projects as prioritized by the board.
Generally every year, NDOT, puts money in a pot for emergency projects such as safety. We are looking to apply to replace the box culvert on South Lamar near Whippoorwill Drive and Windsor Falls, and also to replace the temporary pipe that currently runs under Canyon Road. The county did that back before annexation, and it's just an old corrugated metal pipe that frankly needs to be replaced. So what you're actually granting us permission to do is simply apply for these funds. There's no commitment as of yet.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Consider bids received for the Oxford Conference Center roof replacement project.
So the base bid for this project was one section of the roof, roof A, if you have your map or looking at it. Other sections were bid as alternates. The architect and Hayden, I believe, have said that if the board wants to approve all the alternates, they're more than welcome to, just at your discretion.
What do we budget?
I am not aware of the number, but I was told.
Do you know, Ashley, on the roof for the conference center is 157,000.
Yeah.
And that was the high end, the longest warranty.
So wait a minute, we budgeted 157,000 and the bid came in at 156,973. Somebody's talking around here.
Or maybe they're just reading the public records for budget.
Yeah, maybe so.
I'm not so sure anybody's talking, but anybody that knows how to pull the budget up could figure that out.
Cause she got, Hayden got quotes on it it's been a while.
2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing that's budgeted is the base bid.
At this time, it's my understanding.
Yes.
I move we approve the base bid.
Second.
All right, any questions or comments? All in favor?
Okay.
Any opposed? That was a half-hearted aye. Consider a request for traffic calming on a portion of Brandywine Drive in the Brittany Wood subdivision.
This is a request to install speed tables along Brandywine, generally from Hillmont Drive down to University Avenue. That entire neighborhood, at one point or another, has requested some traffic calming. This area is a primary target because of the speed on site. So, engineering has received petitions, and we've conducted speed surveys, and find this is a great candidate for traffic calming, and we totally recommend it.
I move we approve.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Update on emergency repair work at Combe Street in the cemetery ditch and request permission to hire Williams Engineering and Precision Engineering as needed.
So this is the ditch that runs along the cemetery.
And Drew Stevens is not excited about this item on the agenda at all.
This project actually is in FEMA's pot, for us to do, but who knows when they'll actually turn it loose. And in the meantime, Mr. Drew's property is suffering damage from this ditch. And so what we're asking the board to do is give us permission to conduct a project, design and construct a project to protect his property that would fall in line with the FEMA project, and also relocate the sewer line, which has been discovered to run underneath his house. And Williams Engineering and Precision Engineering will be our consultants for this projects.
Okay.
Motion made to approve. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Third reading, public hearing, and possible vote on proposed ordinance amending Chapter 98, Article 7, Section 153 regarding street trenching and right-of-way management, including a proposed policy for overhead underground conversions.
So this proposed amendment just changes the policy, giving the city engineer at their discretion to allow overlashing of overhead lines in certain situations. The fiber optic cable is going down like mad all over the city, and certain utility companies are really requesting they be allowed basically just to flash onto existing facilities rather than going underground. And so what this policy does is give the city engineer discretion in certain situations to allow that.
Anything to add, Pope?
No, only this public hearing.
Okay,
But this is basically the same thing that we
Yeah.
continue to talk about. Okay.
it is.
No,
It does have a
it's different
change.
Where it's changed, the ordinance looks about the same, but where it's changed
Is
the
it-
policy.
is
no
city
longer has a
engineer-
swap. There's no longer a swap.
There's no longer a swap.
Yeah, it's not a 2-to-1 or 1-to-2, the bank system is in place anymore. Correct. There are other conditions that are now part of the policy that the engineer will consider. Not the swap.
And the swap is what everybody had hoped for, so that is removed. All right, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public that is here to speak about this, Chapter 98, Article 7, Section 153? All right. If not, then are there any other questions? Or are y'all ready to vote?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, the board will go back to item number
7A.
7.
No.
8.
8. Second reading and public hearing on a proposed ordinance amending Chapter 18, Section 18-45 regarding operation of the city animal shelter in multiple sections within the same chapter. We'll try this one again. No worries. Well, and I didn't mention in my mayor's report that we've been in budget meetings all day long, so just, oh, thank you.
The sheet that Mark's handing out, and Nicole's handing out the ordinance, and Mark's handing out our cheat sheet about the actual changes to the ordinance, so we'll go through it one by one, or page by page and one by one. So, as I started before, the, number one, the change on page 1 is the change to the definition, and it just defines what the animal resource center is. There are no changes on page 2. Page 3 is where we went into, the change to animal neglect and cruelty as part of section 18-2 of the ordinance under added number 12 and moved, and renumbered 12 to 13. No changes on page 4, 5, and 6. Page 7.
Our pages are not numbered, so it's
Well, okay.
taking a minute.
So under
We just
Like,
turned.
tell
till
me
we
the
get yellow.
section. Yeah, turn to the yellow. Got it.
18-8, section 18-8, under C, you'll see the rabies hold, that was a change on page 7. And all these changes that I'm going through now, we went through last time. I'll get to the changes to vicious dog part in a minute. Then, on page 8, under section 18-10, you'll see we just eliminated the chemical capture weapons.
Yeah,
And then on page 9, which is Article 2, under 1845, that's where we'll go into the operation of the resource center through the adoption process. Then under 1848, we start with changing the fees and adding impoundment fees for the under the code. 1849 is where we discuss sterilization of animals. And that continues through the next page, and you'll see that the old sterilization section is removed.
Been removed, yeah.
Then under Article 3, section 1873, which is up the licensing charge, it is in the order from $1 to $2. That continues on through 1875, it's the same fee from $1 to $2. Then we get into the part that we're back for tonight, the part of the vicious dog part. So last meeting we had pointed out to us, we had not included the current vicious dog ordinance in the handout we provided to you. So we went through the current vicious dog ordinance with the changes that Nicole would like to make, and we merged the two. Some based on a lot of discussion that was had last summer when we adopted the original vicious dog. So I will say this is a combination of both.
maybe the best of both worlds, not everything that maybe Nicole would like to see, but based on some of our past research, some of the things that we have to do. Do you want me to read those, or how do you wanna, the big changes, just to let you know, are.
I think we ought to go read through the changes, some stuff that went through.
So the big changes, just so you'll know, it adds under 18-78, it adds the ability of the animal control officers to retain a dog that appears to be an immediate threat. Then it also includes under the number 2, under that same section, the boarding fee for that dog if the court so determines that it is a vicious dog. Then under 1878, section 3, next page, if the owner fails to appear in court, then the dog is deemed dangerous and vicious.
So if the officer feels that it's vicious and it's immediate threat,
Then he can retain.
and they retain it, then it goes to municipal court, and it's deemed it's not a vicious dog.
Then the owner gets the dog back at no fees.
So how fast does that happen?
Oh, probably as fast as we wanted to. Obviously, court meets every week. I think it is something we can fast track through the court process. That'll be up to the judge. And, I mean, it's totally up to the hands of the court after it goes through.
Okay.
Well, I mean, but at the fees per day and everything else, what if the owner just says, well, I don't want the dog? You know, obviously, we'll do something with it, but the fees, are they still responsible for the fees?
Again, that would be left up to the judge on whether the judge determines it's responsible. Failure to appear, the dog is already deemed vicious, and that's immediate. But then I guess we have to go out to the owner for the fees.
Fees incurred to date would definitely be up to the court if they wanted to push those. But if they decided not to try to fight for the dangerous and vicious dog, they could sign the dog over, and it would be euthanized.
How is that different than our current?
We didn't have that boarding of the dog is.
Now, as far as could we detain it or retain it in our old ordinance if the animal control officer thought that was
No, in our
vicious?
old ordinance, the owner was required to detain it. Well, there's the issue with that through the animal control is the owner's already responsible for it. So if we ended up with a situation where we needed to declare a dog vicious because it attacked something, the owner wasn't responsible enough to detain it in the first place, then how are we making it detain it? That's the thought process behind why I include that section.
My only concern of that are what are the criteria, and I'm sure there's some in best practices, but for that animal control officer to deem that it's vicious. Are there criteria that he goes down and says check, and not just walk up and I think that dog looks vicious and I'm gonna retain it, so.
Yes, there is. So that may be something that when we merge the two together, that it kind of went out, but it's based on, as far as a dangerous and vicious dog, it's gonna be based on, whether the bite was provoked or unprovoked, whether there was more than one bite, how severe the bite was, who was attacked. So if it's a child in the home that's been in the home, you know, this dog's entire life or this child's entire life, that does change things. There are exceptions, such as like if someone were to break into your home, that is your dog protecting you and your assets. So that dog would not be considered dangerous and vicious, or any canine cop. But yeah, it goes into whether it's provoked, whether it killed another animal. That is one of the ways that they can be considered dangerous and vicious, because dogs have something called bite inhibition. They know when they're biting and they know to let go. So it shows a lack of control in that animal.
So those would be something that's listed out in animal control? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Should we reference that out of our ordinance here? I mean, it needs to reference something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That all of these would be stated.
Okay.
Just add a reference.
And it was in when we got switched, in the one that I sent over, it has what defines it and et exceptions to that.
just reading this, it's awful open-ended, just to the
Right, I
opinion
agree.
of the officer, and I think there ought to be
Yeah.
more of a checklist.
And then the final change is on page 17, and all that includes what's currently in that ten dollars. The final change is on page 17 under section 1881, and it, talks about again the pounding some of the fees for pounding the animal, and then the daily boarding for keeping that animal, and then it's a total, it's a deletion of 1882, disposition of my claim. So, obviously, this is the public hearing, we won't take public comment. I do think we'll need to come back with that.
I do too. Before we vote on it, we definitely need to have that in there.
And part of, I think there's two things. I think there's both the definition of vicious dog, and I think we have another one as well as whether it's a medium danger, which may be a different question. Anyway, we can point that out.
But Mayor, don't you think since we actually advertise it, anybody wants to?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I just don't think that we should take a vote tonight. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on? Sorry, I've lost my, to refer to it. Anyone who would like to speak on chapter 18, section 18 through 45 regarding the operation of the animal shelter and sections in that ordinance? Anybody?
Why do we have a different daily impounding or holding fee for different things?
I noticed that too, 1 to 10, 1 to 60.
We got a 20, a 10, and a 60. Section 1848, impoundment is $20 a day.
I think that's not, maybe if it's not vicious or something, I don't know.
It should all be 20.
And then the vicious is 60, and then on the very last page that we just looked at is 10.
Yes.
So vicious dogs are typically, any dog that has been deemed dangerous or vicious, their boarding charge is typically higher, because it becomes a risk for the staff to be around the animal.
But it says 10 on the last.
10 was the boarding fee, the impound fee was 8.
Right.
So
But
There's
I'm saying-
difference in boarding and impounding.
Right, but
Yeah, so
I'm saying the other part is $60 a day.
That's for dangerous and vicious dogs. This is just regular retention. So if your dog is found running.
Oh, okay, I
around
thought
and
that was
becoming-
under the vicious.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, because in the original one, we wanted to separate that into its own chapter, but it had already been adapted inside that one chapter, so. it
So we
gets-
changed that from somebody's dog's running in the neighborhood and they call it, it's $80. Plus $10 if they're around.
And that gave me pause at first, but when we were, when Braxton was running the animal shelter, in those couple of months, we had the same dog over and over and over. And so people were not motivated to get their fence fixed or get their dog put up or what have you. And so I was thinking that seemed steep at the time, but it does motivate people to fix whatever the problem is when we're finding that we picked up the same husky 3 or 4 times. I mean, in like a 2-week period. I mean, it's absurd. So,
And those fees are, flexible in the point, and that kind of goes into the other part of the beginning of the ordinances, but basically that if you are willing to get your animal sterilized and allow us to do that, then typically the boarding fee or the impoundment fee is less. But that impoundment fee is a one-time fee, and it's just for the officer picking up your dog.
Could go
Yeah.
to a first offense, second offense.
It does have a 3
yeah.
year.
It is in that, in section
See it, Mark?
1848.
it is, but
Section 1,
we've
2,
already
and
seen
3.
that one in action, so,
No,
yeah.
your pickup fee goes up. I'm still trying to figure out what the difference is between 1848 and 1881 on your daily holding fees.
Alright, so, the 1848, under first section is $80,
And then it's $20 a day.
$20 a day for
I understand that, but then we get over to 1881,
and it's $80 and then $10 a day. It should be, those should be.
20.
Yes.
I think
Okay.
it's just repeated, it's almost the
Well,
exact.
well,
But it's not.
that's what I was.
Yeah.
It should be 22.
Okay, so that's each are 20, and I agree with the 60 for the vicious. If it's deemed vicious, then that should be by the court.
And if it is deemed not dangerous or vicious, it goes down to the regular boarding fees.
All right, thank you.
$60 a way day, $180 total.
Okay.
Well, if we've taken a dog and it is deemed not vicious, they don't pay anything.
I was gonna say, I don't think it should be anything.
Well, we still picked it up.
We still picked it up, took care of it,
But if it's not being vicious, should be picked up.
That's right.
But
Well, yes, because
we
it
pick up
has-
dogs all the time.
Well, we wouldn't have gotten called. I mean, it may not be vicious, but it bit somebody or it did something for us to be called on a vicious dog call.
If your judge tells you it is not vicious, then he has had no crime, and
If it was,
You can't
but
charge them.
if it's running in the neighborhood, then we would have picked it up anyway.
for large, that's
Yeah.
one thing, but if we go to somebody's house
No,
because somebody
then
calls,
they shouldn't have to pay.
they shouldn't be paying. If the dog,
But the judge ain't.
if the judge says not vicious, then should not be charged.
Because the true thing behind the dangerous and vicious is you're not necessarily, because I mean, you can't charge a dog, but you're charging the owner for failure to maintain their animal. So, with the parameters that define dangerous and vicious, it makes it a lot clearer, and you'll see that once they're in there. But it's basically, you allow your dog to be in a situation where it could be fined dangerous and vicious. And just because it's not found DV does not mean that it didn't, attack another animal, attack a person, and that's kind of your fault as the animal owner.
When the judge says you're innocent, you're innocent,
Touche.
and so you can't be charged.
Right.
Okay. In my mind. So if somebody else has a different
We've had
opinion,
the
they'll
same,
speak
we've
up.
had the same discussion. So
Okay.
That's at your pleasure.
Okay.
I think we let the judge decide that.
Okay.
All right, any public comment? All right, then we will consider this again at our next meeting with the addition of, those vicious dog requirements. And
Correction of the 10 to 20.
yes, a correction of that. And, we do not have, any executive session issues, so I would ask for a motion to recess until August the 2nd at 12 o'clock noon.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.